Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bachelor Nation news fans. The sun dipped low over the Golden Hills, casting long shadows across the elegant mansion where Mel, the Golden Bachelor, had spent weeks navigating a labyrinth of emotions, flirtations, and heart-stopping confessions. This season had been unlike any other. Age had brought in wisdom, but it had also made matters of the heart far more complex. Mel stood at the edge of the grand terrace, glass of champagne in hand, staring at the horizon. The wind carried whispers of laughter from the poolside, where the remaining contestants mingled nervously. There were only 4 women left: the fiery and unpredictable Cynthia, the soft-spoken and intelligent Leela, the adventurous and bold Sophie, and the charmingly mysterious Danielle. Each of them had captured a piece of Mel's heart, but only 2 would make it to the final. As the limousine carrying the first of the 4 final women approached, Mel's mind raced. He had imagined this moment hundreds of times in his head, but now that it was real, the pressure was suffocating. The limo door swung open and Cynthia stepped out, radiating confidence. Her bold smile seemed to say, "I know I'm the one." She walked toward Mel, her heels clicking against the stone floor like a metronome, marking his racing heartbeat. "Mel," she said softly, her eyes locking onto his, "are you ready for tonight?" I think I am," Mel replied, though his voice betrayed a flicker of doubt. Next came Leela, who emerged from the shadows of the driveway with quiet elegance. She carried herself with the grace of someone who didn't need to command attention but naturally drew it. Mel's chest tightened. Her serene presence contrasted sharply with Cynthia's fiery energy, yet he found himself equally drawn to both. The other 2 women, Sophie and Danielle, were scheduled to arrive shortly, but Mel barely noticed the time. His thoughts were a whirlwind. Loyalty, passion, intrigue, all battling for dominance in his heart. Inside the mansion, the tension was palpable. The women whispered among themselves, analyzing every glance Mel threw their way. Rumors swirled. Did Mel favor Cynthia's fiery determination or Leila's calm intellect? Sophie had always been the wild card, unpredictable yet captivating, while Danielle remained an enigma, revealing only what Mel was allowed to see. As the evening progressed, the producers gathered everyone in the grand living room. "Ladies," the voice of the host boomed, "Mel has made some very difficult decisions tonight. He will now reveal his final 2 women. But be warned, this is a moment of truth and hearts may be broken." Gasps rippled through the room. Mel's palms were slick with sweat, his heart hammering in his chest. He took a deep breath. "Before I make my choice," Mel began, his voice steady but trembling slightly, "I want to say that each of you has touched my heart in a way I never imagined possible. You've made this journey unforgettable." He paused, scanning the faces before him. Cynthia's eyes sparkled with hope. Lila's remained composed yet expectant. Sophie twirled a lock of her hair nervously, and Danielle's face was unreadable, like a mask hiding 1,000 thoughts. "I've had to consider not just who I'm drawn to, but who I see sharing a future with me," Mel continued, swallowing hard. "And this decision, this choice, has been the hardest thing I've ever done." A hush fell over the room. The tension was so thick it could be cut with a knife. And now, Mel's gaze shifted from one woman to the next. "My final 2 are?" Mel's voice trembled slightly as he prepared to announce his decision. The room was silent, so silent you could hear the heartbeat of every person present. The women's eyes were glued to him, each holding a fragile hope, a quiet fear, a secret wish. And now Mel began, pausing to gather his courage. "My final 2 are Cynthia and Danielle." The air seemed to freeze. Cynthia's face lit up, a mixture of triumph and relief. She stepped forward, unable to hide her excitement. "Mel, really?" she whispered, her eyes sparkling. Danielle, ever enigmatic, allowed a faint smile to cross her lips. It was subtle, but the room felt it, a quiet acknowledgement of victory, of validation. The reaction from the others was immediate. Lila's calm facade crumbled. Her eyes welled with tears, a soft tremor in her jaw betraying the storm of emotion she fought to conceal. Sophie's mouth fell open in disbelief, a gasp escaping before she could stop it. She had never expected to be cut before the final rose ceremony. Mel looked at Leela and Sophie with genuine regret. "This is not a reflection of your worth," he said earnestly. "You have both given me incredible moments, unforgettable memories, but my heart, it's led me here." Leela forced a graceful nod, hiding the heartbreak with poise. But inside, she was shattered. Sophie, however, couldn't contain herself. She stepped back, shaking her head. voice thick with emotion. I don't understand, she whispered. I thought we had something special. Cynthia moved closer to Mel, her fingers brushing his. We do, she said softly, her voice almost a purr. We're meant to figure this out together. Danielle remained composed, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of vulnerability. No one had truly seen that side of her until now. Mel reached for her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze, grounding himself in the moment. The cameras captured every second, the joy, the heartbreak, the tension. Social media would explode tonight. Fans would debate, sympathize, and perhaps even rage. But inside the mansion, the emotions were raw and personal. After the announcement, the women were escorted to separate rooms to gather themselves. Cynthia and Danielle stayed behind with Mel for a private moment, the weight of the decision finally settling in. I can't believe this is real, Cynthia said, leaning slightly into him. You actually chose me. You didn't think I would. Mel replied, a small grin breaking through his nervousness. You've challenged me, inspired me, and frankly, you've made me feel alive in ways I didn't expect. Danielle's voice was quieter, reflective. And me? She asked. Why me? Mel looked at her, searching for the words. You showed me depth, mystery, and honesty. I see someone who understands that love isn't always easy, but it's worth fighting for. That's why you're here, with me at the final two. A silence fell over them, not awkward, but charged with unspoken possibilities. The mansion felt alive, every heartbeat echoing with the anticipation of what the final rose ceremony would bring. Meanwhile, Leela and Sophie sat alone in their rooms, grappling with their emotions. Leela wrote in her journal, trying to process the rejection. Sophie paced, anger and sadness battling for dominance, wondering if love had truly played fair. Back in the main living room, Mel and his two final women shared an intimate dinner, laughter mingling with lingering tension. Stories of past dates were recounted, memories of stolen glances and whispered secrets. But beneath the surface, Mel's heart carried the weight of the difficult choices still ahead. One more rose, one final decision, and the journey would reach its climax. As the night drew on, the cameras followed every whispered word, every subtle touch. Mel knew that tomorrow, the world would judge him. But tonight, he allowed himself a rare moment of serenity, flanked by Cynthia and Danielle. The path of the heart was never easy, but it was theirs to navigate, together. Little did they know, an unexpected twist awaited, one that would test loyalty, passion, and the very foundation painted the mansion in shades of gold and rose. But inside, the air was heavy with anticipation. Today was the final rose ceremony, the moment that would decide Mel's ultimate love story. Cynthia and Danielle stood side by side, nervously smoothing their dresses, stealing glances at Mel as he arrived in the grand hall. Despite the intimacy of last night's private dinner, the reality of the final decision loomed. Mel's heart pounded. He had rehearsed this moment in his mind countless times, but real feelings are never so neat and tidy. This wasn't about charm or popularity, it was about the deepest stirrings of his heart. The host entered, dramatic as ever. Ladies and gentlemen, and Mel, she began, voice echoing. The time has come to reveal the final choice. But first, there's something Mel must share with both women before making his decision. Cynthia and Danielle exchanged puzzled glances. Mel cleared his throat, feeling the weight of his confession. There's something I've kept from both of you, he admitted, voice trembling. A part of me that didn't want to complicate this journey, but it's only fair, before I give my heart entirely to one of you. Cynthia's eyes widened. Danielle's brow furrowed slightly. Mel took a deep breath. I've realized that love isn't just about excitement or comfort. It's about connection, honesty, and sacrifice. And I must confess that at some point during this journey, I felt a spark with someone else outside this final two. But it wasn't real. It was a fleeting illusion, a test of my heart. The room fell silent. Cynthia's lips parted, and Danielle's expression shifted from curiosity to guarded. This confession was raw, but Mel pressed on. I've come to understand that my heart doesn't wander anymore. It belongs here with both of you, and now I must choose the one I can't imagine my life without. The tension was unbearable. Mel's hand shook slightly as he reached for the roses, too carefully prepared, symbolic of the ultimate choice. Cynthia, he began, his gaze locking with hers. You've brought fire, passion, and fearless honesty into my life. You make me feel alive in ways I never thought possible. But Danielle, he turned to the other woman, you've shown depth, patience, and a quiet strength I've never known. Both of you have given me everything a heart could desire." Tears welled in both women's eyes. Mel closed his eyes, whispering to himself, "Who can I not live without?" Then the morning came. He handed the final rose to Danielle. Cynthia gasped, her world tilting. "Mel?" she whispered, shock and heartbreak battling in her voice. "I'm so sorry," Mel said, his own voice thick. "You are incredible, and you will find someone who matches your fire. But my heart belongs with Danielle." Danielle's eyes glistened as she accepted the rose. I can't believe this," she said softly, emotions overwhelming her. She took Mel's hand, their fingers entwining as if made for each other. Cynthia stepped back, fighting tears, but with a graceful nod, she whispered, "You two deserve each other. Truly." The cameras captured it all. The shock, the heartbreak, the triumph. Fans at home would debate this choice for weeks, but in that room, it was real, raw, and irreversible. Later, as the sun set behind the mansion, Mel and Danielle walked hand in hand across the terrace. The golden light reflected their smiles, but also the journey of heartbreak, longing, and emotional growth they had endured together. "Are we really doing this?" Danielle asked softly. Mel squeezed her hand. "Yes, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Love isn't always easy, but it's worth it. And with you, it feels right." Behind them, Cynthia sat quietly, a bittersweet smile on her lips. She had lost the rose, but she hadn't lost herself. She knew her own journey of love wasn't over. It had only just begun. As night fell over the Golden Bachelor mansion, one thing was clear. Hearts had been broken, choices had been made, and love had won, just not in the way everyone expected. The morning after the final rose ceremony, the mansion felt strangely empty. The echoes of last night's revelations lingered in the hallways. Cynthia had left early, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she disappeared through the front doors. The smile she wore was bittersweet, a mix of grace, pride, and heartbreak. Mel sat alone on the terrace, coffee in hand, staring at the golden sunrise. His heart was full, but the weight of the decision pressed heavily on him. Danielle approached, quietly slipping her hand into his. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft, almost a whisper. "I am," Mel replied, though he knew he would never forget the look in Cynthia's eyes. "It's just hard knowing I've hurt someone I care about so much. But I also know I made the right choice." Danielle squeezed his hand. "It's okay to feel that. It means you're human." Meanwhile, the eliminated women, Cynthia, Leela, and Sophie, faced a different kind of storm, the social media backlash. Fans of the show had exploded overnight, debating every detail of Mel's choices. Memes circulated, comments streamed in, and hashtags trended worldwide. Hashtag Team Cynthia Heartbreak. Hashtag Danielle and Mel Forever. Hashtag Golden Bachelor Drama. Cynthia, in her usual composed way, handled it with dignity. Interviews captured her poise and resilience. "Mel made a choice," she said calmly. "It hurt, yes, but I believe love finds its way, and I'll find mine." Sophie, still raw with emotion, struggled to appear on camera without breaking down. I thought we had a real connection. It's hard to understand why it didn't work out." Lila focused on herself, journaling and processing her feelings. "It's okay," she wrote. "Sometimes the heart knows what it wants, and sometimes it doesn't. This isn't the end." Back at the mansion, Mel and Danielle explored their first day as a couple, a mixture of thrill and awkwardness. They walked through the sprawling gardens, occasionally laughing, occasionally falling silent, just savoring the presence of one another. "You know," Danielle said, leaning against a marble fountain, "I was terrified I wouldn't get the rose. I even imagined the worst-case scenario. But now, I feel like we have a chance to really start something." Mel smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I promise, no games, no gouts. Just us. Let's see where this goes." Later that evening, under the starlit sky, they shared their first private dance in the mansion's grand ballroom, empty except for the memories of broken hearts and laughter past. Danielle rested her head on Mel's chest, and he held her close. The world outside the mansion, the fans, the cameras, the social media frenzy, didn't matter. In that moment, it was just the two of them. Yet the drama wasn't over. A mysterious envelope appeared at the mansion door. It was from Cynthia. Mel opened it hesitantly. Inside was a handwritten note. "Mel, I wish you and Danielle the happiness you deserve. Remember, love is brave, and so are you, Cynthia." Mel's chest tightened, not with guilt, but with gratitude. He had loved, lost, and chosen, and now a new chapter had begun. As night deepened, Mel and Danielle sat by the fire pit outside, holding hands and talking about the future. Dreams, fears, and secret desires spilled into the night. Every laugh, every touch, every whispered word strengthened the bond that had been forged through weeks of trials and raw emotion. This was more than a game. This was love, messy, complicated, beautiful, and real. And somewhere in the distance, the mansion seemed to glow in golden light, a symbol of endings, beginnings, heartbreak, and hope. 3 weeks had passed since the final rose. The world had moved on. But for Mel and Danielle, life had only just begun. They were no longer inside the polished walls of the Golden Bachelor mansion. Instead, they were out in the real world, where love wasn't guided by producers, candlelight, or carefully timed orchestral swells. Now it was real, and real love demanded patience. The couple decided to take a short trip to Sonoma Valley, away from flashing cameras and judgmental headlines. The sun-drenched vineyards rolled endlessly, painting a backdrop of serenity that neither of them had experienced since the show began. Mel poured 2 glasses of red wine, handing one to Danielle as they sat beneath a pergola wrapped in ivy. "You know," he said, gazing at her, "I didn't think love could start in front of millions of people watching, but somehow it did." Danielle smiled, her eyes warm and thoughtful. "That's because it wasn't about the cameras, Mel. It was about us, about finding something that still feels real when the lights turn off." They clinked glasses softly, savoring the quiet. But love stories, even the golden ones, rarely stay quiet for long. As they relaxed, Mel's phone buzzed with a new message from his producer. "Need you both in LA next week. Interview with GMA. Viewers are dying to know how it's going." Danielle read the message over his shoulder. "Back into the spotlight already?" she said, half laughing, half sighing. "Yeah," Mel said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Fest fame doesn't believe in honeymoons. When they returned to LA, the attention was overwhelming. Cameras flashed, fans screamed, tabloids speculated. Headlines read things like, "Mel and Danielle, still together or already cracking. Cynthia's revenge? Rumors of a reunion text stir controversy. Golden Bachelor finale sparks online war between hashtag Team Cynthia and hashtag Team Danielle." The tension mounted, especially when a reporter asked Danielle live on air, "Do you think Mel really made the right choice?" Danielle froze. For a split second, doubt flickered across her face. Mel noticed, and his heart sank. After the interview, they sat in the limousine in silence. Finally, Mel spoke softly. "You hesitated back there." Danielle exhaled slowly. "I know. It's just this world, Mel. It's intense. I love you, but sometimes it feels like we're still in that mansion, with everyone watching and waiting for us to fail." Mel reached for her hand. "Then let's not give them that satisfaction. Let's live the life we said we wanted. Honest, simple, real." That night, they returned to his home near the coast. Away from the chaos, they sat on the porch overlooking the waves. The sound of the ocean soothed the space between them. "I used to think love was about fireworks," Mel admitted. "But it's not. It's about moments like this, quiet, imperfect, real." Danielle leaned her head on his shoulder. "Then I think we're going to be okay." He kissed her forehead, whispering, "We already are." The Golden Bachelor season finale had become one of the most watched episodes in reality TV history. The nation had witnessed Mel's shocking choice, Cynthia's heartbreak, and Danielle's quiet triumph. Now, a year later, Mel and Danielle walked hand in hand through a charity event for senior dating awareness, something they had started together. Their smiles were softer now, less performative. Love had mellowed them, strengthened them. On stage, Mel took the microphone. "I used to think love had an expiration date, that after a certain age, you stop believing in magic. But this," he turned to Danielle, who smiled tearfully, "this proved me wrong." The audience erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, but this time, Mel didn't care. The world could watch all it wanted. He had already found what mattered. As they walked off stage, Danielle whispered, "Do you ever think about Cynthia?" Mel paused thoughtful. "I do," he admitted. "Because she was part of the journey that led me to you. And for that, I'll always be grateful." Danielle smiled. "Then that's the real golden ending." They stepped into the sunset together, 2 hearts that had found love in the most unexpected way. The cameras faded, the world moved on. But for Mel and Danielle, love was just beginning.